Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. That's about it.
That was funny.
Everybody else is lost in the ether.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, one and all. Good afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you may be.
Oh, gosh. What a beginning.
Right, let's do this. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, that's what we're asking for. They want us to think and believe we live on the globe. Fantastic. Show us the curvature so that I could attest with you that we live on a globe. There's no curvature.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No. If you don't have a globe, what's the reason for spinning? And if you're spinning, you're going to be able to know that. But they say, well, we're spinning, but you don't feel it. Okay, we're back to ether again.
Any evidence of you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
This is an obvious, no, that's an impossibility. You can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline. It's over right there.
Even the balls admit that.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, don't have a clue on that one. They even say they don't have a clue on that one. But they do give it a distance of 93 million miles after saying they don't have a clue.
I read somewhere where it was 91.
Well, I read somewhere where it's infinity.
You can join in from Discord, by the way, just because we've started the live show. You don't have to be shy. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Define it first, please.
The current gravity definition would be the bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space.
What's force space?
Length, breadth, depth, and time. Pseudo-Riemannian force space is Einsteinian geometry for the bending space-time that's going to bend in that geometry.
Okay, I could leave something physical that's got length, breadth, and width, and it could warp, and it could bend, but how do you bend time?
You don't. It's conceptual. This is only existing in the mathematics. So this isn't something that we need to concern ourselves in physical reality, because we're talking about something that only occurs in the maths.
What happened to mass attract mass and Newton?
That was expired 107 years ago, almost 108 years ago now. When
so you're
Einstein...
saying that had a...
Oh, go ahead.
No, are you saying that had a shelf life of about 107 years and then it expired?
No. 107 years ago, Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force-space-time bending replaced Newtonian mass-attracting mass. It superseded it. It introduced a completely different dimension. The two are incompatible because one is Euclidean and the other, as you detailed earlier with what you can physically experience, is non-Euclidean. It's length, breadth, depth, and time as a fourth dimension.
Okay, so we have to go non-physical, non-Euclidean, non-experienceable to make up what gravity is because you can't define it or show it or prove it.
Right. Well, when you make the claim of 107 years plus ago that mass attracts mass, as was the Newtonian claim, in name only, Newtonian didn't ascribe himself to this nonsense, but in name only, Newtonian mass attracting mass can be debunked by showing gas behaviour. Mass doesn't attract mass, hence it needed to be replaced.
That's funny, because as you're talking, Sounds a lot like ether.
Well,
assuming
assuming something without the proof, assuming something without proof could be attributed to many things that the heliocentrics push.
True.
If you really want to get
fair,
to,
though,
go ahead, Paul.
because I've never heard a glober or a pseudo-globian numpty claim Einstein gravity. It just seems to have just come from the institutions, the universities, not actual people.
Well, that's because you're not experiencing anything for us to report on it as the people. What are you going to talk about? What are you going to report?
I would like to know the percentage of people who actually believe Einstein and the percentage of people who actually believe mass attract mass, whatever mass is.
I mean, what we're really looking
Depends
for
on the
though is
application.
we're looking for scientific evidence of gravity. Sorry, Flat Earth Solar, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it depends on the application and which double speak that they need to utilize at that moment. Then they'll flip-flop between Einsteinian and Newtonian.
Right, I've had all sorts of sound issues today, so I'm just going to fiddle with some of the settings. If it all goes wrong in the chat, if you can let me know. As I say, I've had to reset everything this morning, which is a nightmare. Nevertheless, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative.
Why is it negative?
Because you can't get to these places.
So it's just the hypothesis, if you can describe it, it depends on getting to a place.
Well, how are you going to vary and manipulate a star or the moon or the sun?
Ah, okay. So we got to the gist of it now. No, I agree with Neil.
Sorry, what are you agreeing with, Neil? Should we make a note of this event?
I disagree.
I agree with Neil because we can't get the gist of it.
Good morning, Harwin. How are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, we're talking about astrophysics again, right? So it doesn't matter whether you can vary and manipulate a star, sun, or the moon. That's not the problem. The problem is that they have presuppositions about what they are. And with it, you would have to vary and manipulate those things within the presuppositions, and that is absolutely impossible.
I'm slowly edging up the volume. Can you?
So I'm going to vary. Sorry.
I was just going to ask if Neil could interrupt you so I can shout at him to shut up. That'd be helpful. Neil, shut up!
Okay.
Did that? Let me just check. I don't often get to do it. I don't hate doing things like this. Technical issues aside, can I just get an okay from the live chat that didn't distort or sound like blowing your eardrums out when I shouted at Neil? That'd be grateful. I'd be very grateful. Not you in G+. You haven't got filters. I just care about the audience, not you in the panel.
Yes, it hurt my ears.
Yeah, it will. In here, it will hurt your ears. Out there, there's compressors running.
I just listened back on YouTube. There's nothing wrong. So
Excellent.
No distortion, nothing. Perfectly clear.
I think I'm there. I've guessed the settings for the most part today, but they're in place.
You're perfectly fine in the ether. The panel, you're killing us.
We'll get to the ether after housekeeping, okay? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Are you serious? Okay, volcanoes.
Volcanoes aren't connected to the molten iron core claim in the heliocentric model.
How can they not be?
Because they're connected to the tectonic claim. Something separate.
What's that?
The tectonic claim that there's a ring of fire that's caused by the friction of the tectonic activity brushing up against each other, causing the heat to make the rock melt into the lava that forms in these pits below the ring of fire and then eventually gets forced up through these tunnels that we call volcanoes. That's the story and the rhetoric as it stands. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I've no idea if that's true.
That's
Cool
true.
story.
Hang on, that's true in Euclidean space, but in 4D space, I think Neil's got a point. See, we can make up stuff too.
I mean, it is linked to the molten iron core claim is kind of linked to the gravitational accretion claim because it's part of the story, but that story's been crafted to include many aspects of the narrative. So you have gravitational accretion after the Theia strike on Earth, depositing its molten iron core into originally Earth's tiny core, and then gravitational accretion causes the moon to coalesce into what we have now from the debris of Theia. Hence, when you go up there, you've got old bits of tree from down here up there. Obviously, that's how it happened. It was destroyed and then coalesced in gravitational accretion. So that's why, the moon is what it is, and that's got Thea and its direct interaction with the claim to be spherical Earth, giving you a backstory that does include gravitation.
You know what? Just in thinking, when these claims come up, everyone says, well, they say, well, where'd you hear this? Well, they say, okay, I'm asking, when will they show? When will this they group ever show something instead of just say?
I've got some
Which
great software.
day are you talking about?
Show you a geodesic in space-time on the screen. Is that not good enough?
What do you mean? Haven't you seen the James Webb? All of those
No.
pictures, Ted?
No, I don't mean
James Webb's got
I don't
nothing to do. That's got nothing to do with gravity, unless you have a backstory to attach to some of the pictures. So, if you wanted to take, for instance, with the old and now a bit dusty compared to James Webb pictures from Hubble, where they had I can't remember what they call it, deep probe or something sounding suspiciously vulgar, but nevertheless, they had a look into a tiny section of space for a very prolonged period. And then what they came back after they coloured it in with the Crayola was what they called the pillars of creation, right? Well, the pillars of creation are what will form in future the stars by way of gravitational accretion. So therefore, I can take a Hubble telescope and incorporate a heliocentric backstory that incorporates an aspect of gravity. But if you just say the James Webb telescope pictures, if they're genuine, which they might be, some of the, not the artwork that comes after, but just the images that they take of the night sky, I'm sure they are genuine. But they're just pictures of the night sky. They don't have a backstory of gravity yet. So giving it them for them seems a bit, I don't know, crazy. Let them make the story and claim up about the pictures, as opposed to just saying, well, here we go, there's James Webb. Well, no, that doesn't automatically mean that the pictures are directly heliocentric in their claims, does it? Unless I'm missing something. I've not even really seen these pictures. Are they all CGI, or have we got anything authentically original?
Well, I thought I was being clear when I said when they show, I meant empirically through experimentation. So from they say to they show, that's a vast difference, and anything is made up in between.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen, Ted, because they can't.
So, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope. You can't
Negative.
do that. Because all those fields rest on presuppositions and thereby could never yield a viable hypothesis.
What about any evidence of the R value, the presuppositional Earth radius value?
Just assume.
I've got a picture of it in Master B under Britannica Kids.
Okay, what does that mean?
Do you see it?
Britannica
You share
Kids. Oh yeah, I've got that. Okay, it's
All
on
right.
screen.
Measurements of angular distance. A cutaway drawing of the Earth demonstrates how latitude is determined. It makes clear that latitude is a measure of the angle between the plane of the equator and the lines projected from the center of the Earth. For example, the angle between a line drawn from New Orleans on the 30th line of latitude to the center of the Earth and the line drawn on the plane of the equator is 30 degrees. In each hemisphere, the 30th line of latitude connects all points whose projections to the center of the Earth form a 30-degree angle with the plane of the equator. The latitude of the equator is 0 degrees. Lines of latitude north and south of the equator are numbered to 90 degrees because the angular distance from the equator to each pole is 1/4 of a circle, or 1/4 of 360 degrees. There is no latitude higher than 90 degrees. The North Pole is situated at 90 degrees north latitude, or simply 90 north. The South Pole is at 90 south latitude, or 90 south. Maybe you felt that I slowed down my speech at certain points. If you look at the picture, center of the Earth, equatorial plane, and elevation angle with a baseline. Is that measurements coming from the surface of the Earth or from a plane?
Coming from a plane with the protractor incorporated with a map that would be internal, concave, if you were to look at it from the measurement position of this angle. If this measurement position and the white section that we'll call a cake slice, yeah? If this white section is an angle measurement to Polaris and you're at the North Pole when you measure it, then what you're transposing it down to is the centre of this diagram, which has a projection of the flat map that you're actually standing upon up to the heavens with the star beyond them. But this would be an angle measurement from the centre of some ball? No, it's on a plane. That's where you'd be holding the sextant. In the middle.
That's not reality.
Well, you're holding the sextant is, and you're measuring an angle to a star is, but when you do it in this way, it doesn't even seem to show the star. It seems to represent it as though the North Pole is a star, because the North Pole is not a position where you'd be standing if you were standing here measuring a star from this position. You don't have a map above you when you're at the North Pole, but that's what they're showing. The angle's coming from the centre of this bit with a map projected up. Now, I realise that what I've just described in no way said the word globe Earth, because that isn't what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an internal projection of a concave map taken from the celestial sphere model and then transposed up to the arc of the tool measured from this central point by way of the Haversine formula to get it to be this map in a concave form that you're standing inside. I know you guys think that's the globe. It isn't. It's what I just described. Thank you, Tenth. Any more to add on this? Excellent, by the way.
Hold on, that's what I mean, because it's not reality, because nobody's going to be standing in the center of a globe.
Well, this globe is just a projection of a concave Earth by way of Haversine formula taken from the celestial sphere model on a flat plane because of the angles needed. And when you transpose it back and describe those angles, they'll have to come from the centre, even though there's some people out there that think they're standing on the surface of this diagram. They're not, because any angle measurements will be depicted as thus. In the middle, with the Haversine-derived flat Earth measured angles off a plane. That's what you have to use. That's why it's depicted that way. This section along the triangle along the bottom, I know it's like looking like a cake's been sliced into a spherical cake, admittedly, but that's the plane. That's what you're standing on measuring an angle. Here's the angle, if it was as I described the angle to Polaris, when you're standing at the North Pole. 90 degrees above your head, out to the horizon, 90 degrees. Hey, Brian. I'm excited that you're here.
What's up, Joker?
Did we cover R? Any evidence of the R value? Did we get to that? If not, that's not.
Yes, we just did.
That's it. That's the last. Excellent.
Brian today?
Yeah, I got Brian. There's the last housekeeping question. So, about 2 weeks ago, I came up with this great idea, and Brian stole off me. So I was talking about it with Anthony. Now, admittedly, Brian has expanded out my fantastic idea that I explained to Anthony at least 2 weeks ago, and has now hopefully put a tiny bit, because it doesn't need much, spit and polish on that, and we'll disseminate it to you now, unless he's feeling shy. We'll see how much sleep he's had.
I'm driving.
Are you driving?
So just give me maybe
it can
15,
wait.
20 minutes.
It can wait.
Could you 20 minutes? We'll do it.
Great. So we'll get it in the live show today. I'm pleased to hear it. So like I say, Brian will verbalise my great proof later that I came up with a couple of weeks ago.
No, what I'll do is I'll speak about the thing I was speaking about yesterday, and you can then add your bit. Right? You can talk about your bit first, and then I'll throw in the bit I'm going to show.
Oh, you've changed that. I'll be going first. I don't mind going first. I'll take the credit. I can summarise your point. I mean my point.
Yeah. No, I'll be there. I'll be back home in about 15 minutes.
Now, I want you to be the one to verbalise it first, as much as I'm joking aside and all that. I'll wait. I'd rather wait. I'd rather you be the first to send this into the ether.
No hassles. Okay, just give me 15 minutes and I'll be with you, okay?
Yeah, Nathan, you can go to you can go to Master BC, another version of it.
This isn't what Brian was talking about, was it?
No. It was
okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, take over. I'm going to put a few more for you to go through.
It's just the same diagram. So, I mean, you're showing how this is essentially a protractor. On the right-hand diagram, you've got the arc of the protractor. It's no longer depicted as the map, although it does have the word equator on it. Okay. Well, you're taking the measurement from this point, and what you're actually looking at in terms of the arc over the top of you is the arc of the protractor measurement that you're taking. Now, if this line was from your position down here up to the star, then that would put this arc of the tool as the roof that you're measuring, if you will. Well, there's no globe Earth involved in this. That's why they cut a section out of it when they show it that way. Because it isn't. You're taking it from a flat plane. That's the only way you can get angles. That's good diagrams. I love them. Keep them coming.
They are. Look at the next two I sent you.
Okay, let's just put Skype back on. This one's a dot.
No, it's after that.
What's the dot?
I don't know. Someone else put that.
It looks like a Mario cherry. Yum.
It's a star, I imagine.
That's not a star. Do you know why it's not a star?
Sky.
It's a little black dot. It's a little dot on a screen. Stars come out at night and you can see them with your eyes and telescope and stuff. I can see the little squares of the pixels from the camera that's taken whatever this is. So this isn't
It's
a
a very
star.
old camera.
Who took this?
Me, this morning, 5 o'clock.
What's the star?
I don't know, but it's south from me in Suffolk, so I'd have to look it up. I don't have anything to hand.
South from you. Oh, that narrows it down. Moving on. Another diagram.
That's a
similar to
UFO.
Say again, Brian?
No, that was Neil. I said that's a UFO.
And I'm sure it is a star. I was just being pedantic because obviously it's a two-dimensional representation of what we could see. Now, I think I could take that image. Let's just go back to it. Take that into Photoshop. And so, hold on 1 second. Sorry, who? NASA? Needs more green? No problem. I'm on it. So NASA say that it needs to be a bit more green because this star is in the habitable zone. Anyway. So yeah, thanks.
It's too blue.
Are you ever going to get to my picture?
I'm on it now. I was just about to. It's just Neil just dragging this joke out.
Gosh. All right. So here's a few more for you to comment on what they're doing.
Oh,
Let's
thank
do the
you.
last
You're
one.
prompting me to comment on them. Well,
Well, yeah, you did very well with the other ones. I mean,
it's the same again. So here's your flat plane where it says longitude, and then it shows from E to F with a curved line. Well, beyond that, between E and O and F and O, that's a flat plane. That's the area that you're taking these angles from. That's how this is done. Now, again, this one does have a globe map projected up by way of Haversine formula from the celestial sphere model that's a flat plane, because that's what uses the angles. Now, in many a depiction, oh, it's the next one. Here we go. You have both the globe Earth, that's this little bit down here in the centre, and the celestial globe, if you will, sphere, around it. But what are you actually taking the angles from? Well, if you look really closely right in the middle, it's off this flat plane here, with W, H, E, and H around it. That's the flat plane that you're standing on to measure any of these angles. 2P, in this case, that might be Polaris. And H, that would be the horizon. Yeah, that's a straight, flat line with an angle that goes through the sphere that you're standing in the middle of, if this is depicted in the same way as the previous diagram, with you in a globe. You're not looking in the back half of a concave globe Earth, but nevertheless, that's how it's depicted here. And on this one, it's just this little bluey-coloured domey thing. But that's the same exact thing. It's just you standing in the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, same as this diagram, you standing at O, looking at the inside of a concave globe Earth that you think you're standing on, even though you're measuring from the centre of it, which you're not standing on. You are, however, standing on a plane. You'd have to be measuring an angle. What's this
keep
diagram?
going.
Yeah, you can talk. You can do the. I hate these. It's just the same thing, but
No.
with two slices from it,
Right.
without the dome
you're
around
gonna
it. Go
look-
ahead.
You're
Well,
gonna
they're doing like a shell game, right? Switching.
please go to the. Please go to the last two slides.
That's the ones I'm on.
Okay. Here's this without the sphere drawing. Looks like parts of protractors from the plane. Now go to the very last one.
Okay.
Now, these are protractors. You can see the 90s right on them. This is it. Now just draw a circle and you live on the globe.
Well, yeah. You don't. No, inside a globe, you're taking the angle from the centre point. So where it says
No, the way
celestial
they-
pole.
The way they do it, if you draw a circle around this, encapsulated with a Earth, if I superimpose Earth over this with a PNG. See, we live on the globe. No, the angle's coming from the center, the plane.
Yeah, it's missing the globe in the middle, right? It could have, around about where my mouse is now depicting, a second sphere with you standing in the middle of it looking up into a concave bottom half of a globe when you measure these angles to, say, the celestial pole and out to the horizon. That's one angle is. You know, you could say, I'm standing in the middle of a globe looking inside to my map when I measure these angles off the flat plane with a globe Earth projected up from the flat plane. And through that globe, we get the angle to the star without seeing any map projected up between us and the star that we're measuring. We just have us and the star and no map between. I love it. Right. It is a shell game, Arwin, by the way. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, they quickly switch around like, oh, on top of the ball. Oh, wait, you're inside of the ball. Oh, please don't notice that. Please don't see that. Let's move on.
What he's seeing here, besides the obvious, is the horizontal coordinate system, the elevation angle to the star, or whatever that's depicted here, and the azimuth, the direction from north for the bearing. Looks flat for both. To get both, you need a flat plane.
Good stuff.
Has a penny dropped on that one? I mean, has a penny actually dropped on that one with this image that your azimuth from north to the star, where you're pointing your sextant at the star, so that's got to be done on a horizontal plane for your compass reading, and it shows it. And the elevation angle, which you need a plane to even achieve. So right here, both the azimuth and the elevation angle need that plane.
I think what would help is if you had a hippopotamus-shaped glove puppet explaining how the Haversine formula worked.
Well, we're working towards that because John refracted curvature has a better handle on that, but that's when they convert everything from flat to a ball while they keep projecting it.
Well, I think that would be incredibly useful because one of the things that we say in our chat or in comments, Anthony will attest to this because he says it repeatedly, daily almost, when they say, have you got a flat Earth model or a flat Earth map yet? And the response is all of the maps are flat. Now, their response is, well, they've come from globe projections. To which we need to be responding, yeah, which came from flat Earth projections. But we need to show how. We've told people how.
But it's not like, but we just cut
from globe projection. They just took it, they measured it, the flat plane, and that's how they constructed the globe projection.
Yeah, but most people don't get that, are we? We're at the cutting edge of this argument.
Yeah, but we're saying that it's not a globe projection, it's a plane that they get angles from, and then they create a globe to project. They don't even have one to project until they create one from a flat plane, which is the last few pictures. So that's Haversine in the short, you might say.
Right. So we need to drum this home so that people understand that the way their world's been produced in terms of a map is the celestial sphere model, which is a flat Earth that's capable of giving you angles to stars, the stars being wrapped around you in a sphere. That's been then converted into a globe by way of the Haversine formula. The globe, with its projected map in place of the tool you use to measure the stars, then has a cylinder wrapped around it to project out from the globe back onto a cylinder. The cylinder's then rolled back out flat. That's the process of getting from angle measurements to stars, Polaris most specifically, to a model that has a flat plane with the dome of the heavens around it, to a globe with a flat plane in the middle of it, concave, and a celestial sphere around that, to a cylinder wrapped around the globe excluding the stars, but with them marked on the map with latitude and longitude lines, that projected onto the cylinder to be cut out and laid flat. That process we need to go over and over and over so people understand that the sphere bit is just an in-between stage that's completely redundant. It's not required, it's not used, it's not useful, doesn't do anything for you. That's why you end up showing it with you standing in the middle of it. If you're supposed to be standing on it, it's not useful to you.
Can you go to the next slide?
Yes?
Okay, so you can see here that the equatorial plane is shown here. This is the center of their Earth, but it's an equatorial plane. It's a disk, it's a circle. And there's we'll call him Bean Boy because we used Bean Boy before. So there's 3 versions of this. And there's a question. Which location is the equator? 1, location A. 2, location B. 3, location C. 4, none. Which location would Bean
I know, I was
Boy
about to do
have
the
to
countdown clock. Dun 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 dun.
Which location does Bean Boy have to be to see those movements on those dates of that luminary? Where would they have to be in this one of these 3 to be the equator? June 21st, December 21st, and March 21st and September 23rd in the middle. Now, what is March 21st and September 23rd? What's happening on those days? Starts with the E.
Equinox.
Equinox.
Yes, that he would have to be there to observe March 21st and September 23rd because that's when they cross the equator. Wait a minute, how come the equator is on the flat plane? How come the equator's on the flat plane here?
So if you said location B, C, or none, I'm hoping you'll summarise this point, 10th. You're dragging it out a little too much. The gaps are too long.
No, that's not. I'm waiting for people to respond. People are afraid to put their name to it. I mean, if you're Bean Boy and you're standing, where would you have to be standing in order for those stars to be over the equator?
Okay. All 3 options are a flat plane.
You have to be standing in the center of the Earth.
Yeah, all the options are a flat plane. And yet this is from their book saying, hey, guess what, where you have to be? It's like a little pop quiz for them, right? It's like, wait a minute, how come you're not showing this on the ball?
Yeah, they forgot to draw in the globe in each of them, like in between the celestial sphere and you, looking up at a concave map that replaces the arc of the tool you're measuring, because you've got to have a sine formula derived map from this flat plane you're taking the angles from to put a globe around him, in between you and the stars. So you're standing looking up at a concave Earth. They haven't put that bit in.
All they needed to do is just draw the other bottom half of the virtual sphere, and people would have not picked up on it.
Wrong. No, because the other half would be the bottom of the celestial sphere, wouldn't it? That's the line that the star's going to move along. So June 21st.
Yes, of course. But the thing is that then to the observer, they might again fall for the little switcheroo trick and think, oh, wait, yeah, that means a globe because I'm looking at a globe. Oh, it's inside of it? Yeah, it's on a globe.
Is it location 1 then? Or A?
Have I missed the quiz?
Yeah, it's location A.
Should be.
I went for 1 in the chat.
Oh, were they giving me hints in the chat? Should have been watching that. Let's bring that screen back up. Yes, I'd have got the question quicker to actually think about it. But 10th's now gone silent, leaving these bloody long pauses again.
I'm waiting for conversation. Go to the last slide I'm going to show today. One more quiz.
Oh, wait there. I've only just joined to see if I got it right, 10th.
He's dragging it out. It's annoying.
So,
It is not.
you want me to drag it out?
He's dragging it out whether we like it or
Fair.
not.
Next time you have a long pause, we'll just change the topic.
10th knows when he's in control of what's going on, and he's leveraging that as much as he can.
Yep.
Well, you're speaking for my intention. You can't divine intentions, I thought.
You are in control of this conversation. I can make that as a declarative statement with it being absolutely factually correct.
If I'm in control, go to the next slide.
Yeah, I just did.
Am I in control?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Which diagram best represents the view of Polaris to an observer located at the Earth's equator?
Four. All four options are a flat plane.
It's funny. They have these quizzes and they forget to draw a globe.
Yeah, Arwin was saying earlier, he was saying, well, all they needed to do was draw the other half of the sphere and they'd have got away with it. It's like, yeah, but you've got Polaris marked on this, right? If you look at diagram 1, I know it's wrong, but just for the ease of looking at it, because it's got a label, Polaris, at the guy's zenith. Well, obviously not, he's not at the North Pole, he's on the equator, but where's the globe? You've just got the line that the star's on. Well, that's you looking at the star from a flat plane, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you look at number 4, the one with the green box around it. So look at where Polaris is on number 4. It's on the horizon, 5,400 nautical miles away, because it's no longer at your 90, it's at 0.
I don't know if Brian's finished yet. You all parallel parked up and such, Brian?
Yeah, just give us a moment there, Nathan. 1 second now. I'll build it.
No
Does that
worries.
mean he wants me to do more pop quizzes or what?
No, God, no. No more quizzes.
I just want the answer to question 1.
Am I in control?
Oh, okay. No. I guessed. Adam guessed. The chat also guessed. Let's just give some answers from the chat first. Oh, it was only you, Adam.
I think people are a little... I mean, can I explain my rationale for your 10th? And maybe that'll help on number 1. So as I look at it, what you've got is you've got the equinoxes and the solstices planned out there. Now, if we think about what they are, we've got the transit between the equator and between the tropics. So, for me, the only one that can allow that is you'll have twice a year where the sun passes overhead at the equator, and then once a year where it travels up to the tropic and down to the tropic. So, as I'm looking at this, you can see, look, December the 21st, the sun is in the south, which is correct. If you think about where the sun would be. June the 21st, the sun is in the north, and then March and September, look, the sun's transiting on its way back between the tropics twice. So that would be why I picked number 1, whereas the others, look, if you look at the path of the sun, you're in the, well, you're about, if you look roughly where the double transit is, so where March, September is, that's about 45 degrees. So you would say they're somewhere along that sort of latitude for B. C, I've not got my head right. That looks like it's quite far south, doesn't it? No, quite far. Yeah, quite far south, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's why I'd go for 1/10.
Same reasons. That's why I guessed. I think you and I were the only ones to guess, Adam.
Okay.
I was prepared to put my neck out. I still don't know if it's right, but...
Okay,
I don't know either, but I guessed 1, 2. So I've said location A, Adam said location A. While we've got it on, as this has actually now turned into the pop quiz I was demanding it didn't, because 10th Man's dragged it out. Anybody else want to have a guess from the chat, given that 2 of the people on the panel have had a guess? We might be wrong.
I said A.
Oh, did you? Did you say it 2 weeks before we did?
Okay,
No.
so read the question, please.
Which location is the equator?
Did it ask for a star, or is saying which location is the equator?
Yeah, it's saying which location is the equator.
Well, which location is the equator when the equator on the reified globe model is 0?
There is no equator. I mean, from that point of view, I can get pedantic. Your equator line is an averaged point.
That's what I thought.
There is no equator. I mean, how you describe the equator, if you reify at the midpoint of a sphere, then that's how they describe the equator. But it's still just an average, right? So
It's a celestial derived convention.
There's no line on the ground, is there?
Right.
In the
Even if they had a globe, R would be an average because they don't have an ideal sphere. So how could you have an equator? By definition.
But either way, all three of these with the observations, which we haven't found out if you're correct yet, and people aren't guessing. Somebody in the chat says 3. Mike808 gives me a super chat. Nobody wants to guess 10th. Can we end this painful ordeal or what?
Well, were you expecting me to answer it? No, I'm putting it here to see what you guys say.
We've already said 1.
Are we trying to guess which one's the equator? Is that the one y'all are on? I'm sorry, or are we trying to figure out?
They're all equators that have a flat plane. It doesn't matter which you guess in their book. The book's forgotten the globe. They're all on a flat plane. But which would you describe as having your sun moving directly at your zenith at March 21st and 29th? Is it the 29th? It's too small to read.
Is that the question, Nathan? Are they asking that specific question you just said? Or did they just say which location is the equator?
Which location is the equator is the question.
Okay, does it, I mean, they're showing the sun moving at the solstices and the equinoxes.
Please, whatever your conclusion is, this is killing me. Please.
No, I'm trying. I think it's a malformed question because it's not asking to the observer. It's just letting you guess. It's showing you the solstices, the equinox.
Whoever's interrupting him when he's finally making whatever conclusion he's got to make, please stop. Try again, 10th. Hopefully this will be the end to this.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I'm looking at the solstices and equinox, like Adam said. And I'm saying, okay, is that the question? And then I read the question. It says, which location is the equator? And I said, well, the equator, well, that's 0 position, and it's where you get your angles from. It's our flat plane that we live upon. The whole thing is 0 plane. I mean, what is the question here?
It's location A.
It should have been at the equator, but now it's the equator, which is really weird because that's not what the equator is. It's not a point.
Do you not think you're just being a bit pedantic there?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Well, you guys over the pond get pedantic all the time. Is it off limits for people here in the States or what?
Depends how justified it is. When we do it, it's
but we don't do
justified.
quizzes on it.
Well, sorry about that. I just thought it was interesting because it's obvious from the pictures what they're asking, but the question doesn't really say it well.
Location A.
It is location A.
No, none. It should be D.
It's also a malformed question. It also forgets to show the globe. It also has 3 answers that are flat planes. The list goes on. Thank you, 10th. Brian?
It couldn't be answered. It can be answered correctly. 4, none. It has the answer there.
You got it wrong. You said 2.
No, I said 1. But now, in reflection to the pedantic inquiry, I thought, yeah, but there is a none answer. So it is kind of a trick question.
Okay, can we pray silence? Brian's got his presentation up, and I want you to all pay close attention. Shouldn't take long. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, Nathan, I'm going to do this part, and I'll leave you add in afterwards your point, okay? Because that's more technically yours than mine. Okay, so this is a diagram from a video I made some days ago. If we treat the X, see this X here, the purple X up at the top? Treat that as Polaris, right? So here we have a boat, and this is X, this is Polaris at 0. And here we have a plane 6 miles above the boat, and here is Polaris at 0. So the plane can be either straight above the boat or at the opposite side of the equator. The whole point is, at the equator, they're both going to get a 0, right? When they use the Mariner sextant in the boat, they're going to get a 0 to Polaris, 0 degrees to Polaris at the equator. When they use the bubble sextant in the plane, they're going to get a 0 degrees to Polaris in the plane, right? But the plane is 6 miles above. So I just move on here to a point. 1 second now. Right. So now we add in this, right? So if we imagine that this is, right, this is Polaris here, this purple cross. But the boat is seeing Polaris at 0, right, because it has Earth curve in its way. I use the moon, but it doesn't matter. It has Earth curve in its way. That's the claim, right? So the boat, the Mariner on the boat using the marine sextant will get a 0 degrees to Polaris at the equator because we're told for generations Earth curve, right? But when the plane is at the opposite side of the equator or directly above the boat's zenith, 6 miles up, the navigator on the plane at the equator will also get a 0 degrees to Polaris. So how can Earth curve be blocking both of them? You can't. Right? The claim of Earth curve was only something that can be claimed, right? Obviously not proven, but claimed for the boat. It can't be claimed for the plane. And the claim of Earth curve comes from the fact that they're seeing Polaris at their 0 degrees horizontal. Right? That's their 0 degrees with the marine sextant. At the equator, they're getting a 0 degrees to Polaris. But if the plane is 6 miles above the boat, how can it be getting, or at the opposite side of the equator, 6 miles above, 6 miles higher than the boat in elevation? How can the plane be getting a 0 degrees to Polaris as well, if the reason that the boat gets it is due to Earth curve? So this completely debunks the claim that Earth curve has anything to do, not that we believe it ever did, but the point is that it debunks the claim that Earth curve has anything to do with the boat getting a 0 degrees to Polaris.
Beautiful.
At the equator.
Let me just summarize what Brian's saying. So using his diagram, you've got a boat that's got a star on the horizon. Let's say it's 1 degree above the horizon. Now, if there's a plane sighting the same, let's say a helicopter or a hot air balloon, above the boat, now, according to the claim, that star for the boat has a physical limitation called Earth curve, blocking its view of it. So it's going to eventually be obscured by the curve of the Earth getting in the way. Now, above the boat, you can have something take the exact same angle to the star. Ergo, there is no geometric limitation to the star, because that would alter as you lowered in altitude. But as we know, the angle to the star does not change. Now, when it comes to the sun, they say we get 2 sunsets because we have an atmospheric refraction. Well, this puts them into a very sticky bind, the anti-flat earthers / globers. Why? Well, because what's their comeback? Oh, well, all the light comes in parallel. Oh, really? So, number 1, it must be a straight line to run parallel with all the other straight lines. What about terrestrial refraction? Aren't all the lines bent? They're definitely not parallel then, if you've got terrestrial refraction. Further to that, Brian's pointing out that even if you have them as parallel, you'd have a geometric limitation at the horizon for the star. You wouldn't get the same angle as you raised in elevation, not because of the distance being infinite, in their example, but because there'd be a limitation to your view at the horizon that you could overcome. Ergo, the horizon precludes your view of a star until you raise up beyond that physical limitation and bring it back. That doesn't happen. The angle's the same at both altitudes. Thank you, Brian.
No worries, Nathan. I'd just like to throw in that a load of our opposition, including Mr. Sensible and others, all claimed that the reason that the boat and the plane were seeing Polaris at zero, right, was due to parallel light rays. Now, from Polaris or wherever, the point is that they relinquished our curve, because our curve should be the reason that within their model, not for reality, but within their model, our curve should be the reason why the boat is seeing Polaris at zero. That's the whole point. If I just show here, if people can see my mouse, well, what should happen on their model is the boat should be down here at the equator, and Polaris should be straight up from everywhere along this arc, right? Along this hemisphere here, should be straight up from everywhere, and the boat here should be blocked. Its view to Polaris should be blocked by this here. I'm just going to wave the mouse around. This part of the globe here, I know I'm using the moon, but it'll do. This part of the sphere here should be blocking the view of the boat, which will be here to Polaris. So that's why they get a zero. They're getting Polaris on their horizon. But the airline pilot is also getting Polaris at zero on their horizon. And that would put the airline pilot out here. So there's nothing blocking the airline pilot or the navigator on the plane from seeing Polaris. They're just seeing Polaris at their zero, the same as the boat, even though they're 6 miles above. Debunking the claim that it's our curve that's blocking the boat, something that our opposition, some of them, relinquished in a moment, in a heartbeat, and started claiming it was due to parallel light rays. Now, I don't know what it's due to. But
well, before you launch into your speculation, they claim it's parallel light rays. Parallel light rays? No. We're supposed to have refraction. Right? Refraction always? Definitely not parallel. That would be a straight line.
Yeah, the parallel light rays have to be straight. See, this is the thing. Parallel light rays have to be straight. They can't refract. And the reason they have to be straight is the reason for them being claimed in the first place, is they need to give the shadows that we see in reality. That's why parallel light rays were claimed, so that they could explain shadows on the shadows we see in reality from the sun, so they could explain that on a spherical surface or a circular surface. So they can't be diverging when they come into their atmosphere, because they need them to be parallel to get the shadows.
And yet they're claiming refraction when they have things beyond the horizon represented as higher than they should be when blocked. And yet parallel light rays, that's straight light, is the reason that everything's coming in, but then there's no obstruction with the horizon, because you get the same angle at altitude. So there's no geometric concerns or considerations when you're taking in the parallel light rays. There's also no refractive considerations with R attached. So it's a complete balls up. This is a total mess for the globe.
Well, if I share, 1 second, I'm just going to share something now in a moment. Let's see if I can get it. 1 second now, something, and this should be pretty good. Where are we? I'm going to share, maybe Kent has a picture of it there, but he sent me a picture recently. Yeah, any of these will do. Right. 1 second now. And you won't see any... Sorry, I need to get a photograph. Sorry, I was trying to get a photograph there. I don't want to break up this. I was trying to get a photograph there of the sun's rays coming down. Now, I'm just going to see if I can get one there. There should be one handy. I'm pretty sure Tent sent me one in recent times. Maybe Tent Man has one handy there.
You're looking for a picture of light rays converging at the sun?
Well, yeah, the point is that the point I'm making is we see them hit the ground. We don't see them diverging, do we? We see them diverging from the sun, but we don't see them changing, is what I mean. We don't see them 7/6R. We don't see that happening to the light rays. Sure, we don't.
No.
Of the sun. We don't see that. We see the rays coming down and hitting the surface of the earth, where it be water, land, that's what we see. I'm just trying to find a photograph. I don't have one to hand handy. If Tent has one, he might share it. But just while we're waiting for that, just 1 second.
That's the problem with a lie, isn't it? eventually
Yeah.
one of the layers contradicts something else that you're trying to claim. So refraction,
Yes.
refraction, it all comes in parallel. Excuse me? Hello? Oh, it's a fun day to be a flat earther. This is great.
This is what I said was likely, I don't know, but it's likely the reason, and this is the only thing I could come up with, as to why the pilot would see Polaris, the pilot's or the navigator or whatever, would see Polaris at their zero, which would be at their horizon, even though they're 6 miles up. The same way as the mariner sees Polaris at their horizon and they're at sea level. When they're both at the equator, is that the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. So the point is that when you see like the sun at setting, you can zoom to that setting sun, and you can see often the time, depending on how far down it seems to have set, that it's actually the sun is still above the horizon, but the angle has tightened. So consequently, when they see Polaris appearing to be at their horizon, it's just due in the plane and in the boat, just due to the horizon always appearing to rise to eye level. It doesn't rise to eye level, but it appears to, and that's all they need. That's what I say, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. All I know is it's not our curve, and even some of our opposition have relinquished that, so I don't know. But
how can they be our?
Go on, John.
I was just going to ask, how can they be our opposition and not believe the Earth is curving? That doesn't make sense.
Or that the light's curving. How can they believe that it's not bending at 7/6 of the radius? They got a lot of problems.
Major problems.
Well, no, I understand that they want to say that we're wrong, but if they're relinquishing the idea that the horizon is a result of the curve of the Earth, then they're not globers anymore.
That's correct. That's what we tried to explain to them back in 2020 when we released the Black Swan, and they relinquished their claim in the first instance with refraction. So not geometry, so not Earth curve, a light effect. Well, that's relinquishing your claim in the first instance that the globe Earth you think you're on has geometry to assert. That's their claim in the first instance. So yes, we've been trying to get across that to them since 2020, John.
Here is a photograph. Sorry.
I was just going to say that's one of the problems we really run into is the people that are trying to argue with us actually agree with us, but they just don't want to.
Yeah, that's why they're stuck in the same pond as us, separated from the rest of normie society alongside us. They're trapped here with us. They don't believe it either. Right, John?
Yeah, they really want out, I'm guessing, by now.
Heresy!
I've got your image of the sun rays coming down.
Yeah, Tent sent me this. I can't make it any bigger because it's in Skype. But this shows the rays of the sun coming down and hitting the surface of Earth. Now, before we even point out that they're diverging, not parallel, which is something we'll get to in a moment, the point is they're not being affected by standard refraction. There's no 7/6R happening here. There's no divergence of the divergence. It's just, it's coming, diverging down from a point in the sky. That's what's happening. And the thing about it is that the explanation we got, or explanation I got online, one of the things that they came at me with, a couple of them, was that the reason we see the light from the sun diverge is not that it's divergent, it's actually parallel, but it's perspective, right? Something that doesn't exist on their model. You can't have perspective, because that requires the sun to have an angular size, which you can't have on your model. So they're trapped at everywhere, every turn they go, they're trapped. And to prove that, here, this is their model. This is not reality. This is what they need to be. And what you'll notice here is they don't, even though they're showing the well at Cyan and they're showing the angle of the shadow at Alexandria, the point is that this whole globe here, all of this should have parallel light rays coming down to it within this diagram. So this diagram is fraudulent from the start, because it's only showing the sun on one part, whereas in their model, it's the whole thing they should have light rays parallel coming down to it. But they want us to believe that that's what's happening and this is what we see, and it's due to perspective. Perspective doesn't exist on the globe model. This is the globe model. It's orthographic. There is no perspective. All the maths are orthographic. 2D orthographic. There's no perspective possible on a globe. So we can't be seeing parallel light rays that we think is diverging because the sun is an angular size. No, the sun is an angular size because that is the perspective view of the sun, something that it can't have in heliocentrism.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to Unitox Femu for hitting the super chat. I forgot to shout you out during the show. He says, all we are saying, give level chance. John Lennon. Thank you very much for hitting the super chat, Unitox Femu. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.